Hi there, my name is Simon Hurley and I'm a 14-year-old card maker. Today I'm super excited to be teaching you guys how to mass produce cards. Using the Misty tool, this will save you a ton of time and you can create a bunch of cards using the same layout over and over. So let's get started. I'm going to be creating 4 cards for today's lesson, but you can create however many you want. And I already have the cardstock pre-scored and folded. We have 4 of the top panels that are going to be stamped on and created the scene on. So these are just 4x4 square panels. And then I'm also just have scored and cut the card bases, and these are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and that leaves a little white border around it when you add the panel on, but you can cut them to whatever you want. So just setting these off to the side, we're going to start off with our stamping here. We're going to pull out the Misty, and the nicest part about this is it can stamp in the exact same spot over and over, so you can create a bunch of different cards all at the same time, so you can save a bunch of time. This is nice if you're creating cards for loved ones and you want to give out a bunch of them, or if you have a specific party or coworkers you want to give these out to, that'll definitely work and save you a bunch of time while you're creating them. So I'm just pulling out all the images we want to use in today's scene, and then I'm just going to place them on the card how you would like them, and just spend a little bit of time on the alignment here to make sure that it's perfect, because this is how all the cards are going to stamp. So I'm just moving some stamps here and there, making sure that they're nice and aligned. And also the grid lines on the Misty can really help with that as well. So once I'm done with that, I'm just going to place the magnet down so the cardstock doesn't move. And I'll pick it up with the acrylic top here. And then here's when you can start your stamping. So you have all of your images on the top now. And I'm going to be stamping with the archival ink because we're just going to color with colored pencils in a little bit. And this will give us a nice crisp, bold image. So we're just going to ink the images up. Make sure they're nice and inked. Even if you make a mistake here, you can always restamp them because they're in the Misty and it goes in the exact same spot. So just giving it nice pressure on all the different images. And you'll see that we messed up a little bit here. We didn't get a solid impression. So I'm just going to make sure that's back down into the corner of the Misty, and you can restamp that as many times as you need. Just making sure there's a ton of ink on there now. And I'm just going to restamp that down. This is definitely a big time saver rather than having to stamp all these different images individually on all the different cards. And they'll be in the exact same spot every single time. So I'm just going to pull a different card base in. And then we'll be able to just ink up the image again and stamp it down. So then I'm just going to turn this over and give it some nice pressure here. That one's stamped nicely, so I'm just going to move on to the next one, lining it up in the corner again, making sure the magnets are down, and this is a breeze after a little while once you get the first couple done. So just ink it up, and then you can stamp down as well. And then we're going to move on to our last card. Putting the little panel in there. And it'll stamp exactly the same, which is really nice. So giving it nice pressure to make sure everything stamps. And there you have the last card. So now we've completed our stamping for today. I'm just going to set the Misty off to the side. And we'll move on with the rest of our cards and the coloring. For the coloring today, we're going to use this 24 count of the Staedtler colored pencils. These are super bright and really fun to color with. So we're just going to do some really simple blending on these bears so that it just takes really quick time and we can keep moving on with the rest of our cards. So I'm just going to start off with the darkest brown color and kind of been doing what we've been doing with the Copic markers. And just start off with a really light hand to add those darker colors in there. And I'm just kind of adding it on his legs and his arms. And I'm just blending kind of the color in here. I'm also going to add it kind of around his facial features too, so around his eyes and his nose where it would be casting a shadow. And then a little bit where that bird is sitting on his head. Then we're going in with the next color and just blending that kind of out. And just really softly, again with a really light hand, just blending in that color. If you want to, you can go a little bit darker with some of the colors or bring in a darker hand. But for these, I just want to keep a really nice light color and just kind of go with a lighter hand. It also keeps your colored pencils from breaking on the tip. So I'm just kind of extending out that darker color with the second one. and kind of shading everything in. So then we're moving on to the last light color here, and we're just going to kind of blend everything together and just fill in the rest of the area. If you would like to save just a little bit more time, you can just do all of the same shade color at the exact same time on all the different cards. So start out with the darkness in his arms and legs, and adding those shadows. And then once that's finished, we can keep moving on to the other cards with the exact same color. This way we can get a bunch done at one time, and it makes the coloring go just a little bit faster. Since you're doing the same step over. So then you can just move on to the next one and just keep shading this in the darker area here. So I'm just moving on to the last card then, and just finishing it off with this dark color. After you're done shading all the little bears in like this, I'm going to move on to the shading of the other images in the set. You can really keep these pretty simple since they're a lot smaller than the bear. So we did a lot of shading on him, and we can kind of just color these in with 1 or 2 shades each. So I'm just going to start off with the leaves, and I'm just coloring in with these kind of teal colors here. And we'll blend that out to a green later on. I just love using these really bright and fun colors, even though it might not actually be this color in real life. Then I'm coming in with this lighter shade of green to just blend out that little teal color. And there's a big difference between colors here, but I really like how they blend together and how they're kind of a little bit wacky. Then we're going to come in by just coloring that little bird on the top of the bear's head, and I just love this image, how that little bird is just sitting up there. It's so much fun. And then I'm just going to continue by coloring in the flowers and things like that, and these do have some lines on them. You just want to start from the center to add all the darker color in there, and then you're going to move on to the lighter color on the outside to blend it all out. You can really just stick with a 1 color layer as well though, and I think that looks pretty cool too. And then for this banner too, I'm just going to shade it in just a tiny bit right on the edge here, so there's just a little bit of a shadow coming in, and you can kind of fade it out into the center. I'm going to do that on both sides. Just fading the color right out into the center of the banner. And I'm also doing it where the folds are as well, so you can have a nice darker color there. This will just add a little depth and dimension to the banner, and just so that everything else is colored in with it, we want to shade that as well. So once you're finished with that, the card is almost finished. We just need to stamp our sentiment. So we're just going to be using one of those curved little thanks sentiments from the stamp set. So I'm just laying it on the craft mat so it keeps its shape. And then I'm going to pick it up and just stamp it down using some archival ink. So ink it up, and then we'll stamp it down right on top of that banner. All we need to do to finish off this card is just take it and add some tape runner to the back. And this will just help adhere it to our card really nicely. And we'll just take one of our card bases and add it right on top. Now if you want to take it just one step further, you can grab some Wink of Stella and just add it to some of the little flowers to give it a nice little shimmer, and once that's dry, it won't come off of your card, so it just adds a little bit of extra detail onto there. And I just like adding it onto the things like the flowers, just to add a little bit extra. And once that's finished, your card is complete. So I finished one of the cards that we created today, but you can go as many as you want to, and I already finished these 3 beforehand. As you can see, they have some nice darker shading, so you can go lighter or darker if you want to create whatever effect you want on your cards. Thanks so much for stopping by and joining with me today. I hope you guys really enjoyed learning just a little bit more about how you can mass produce your cards using the MISTI and a couple other stamping tips and techniques, and coloring as well. I hope to see you guys very soon for another lesson, and I would love to see your projects in the gallery. See you later!